buenas noches, bienvenidos otra vez al canal. Espero que estéis pasando un buen finde. Y bueno, pues vamos a seguir con Atari. Recordad que nos quedamos en las recreativas en casa. Y bueno, seguimos con este viajecillo que estamos haciendo por toda la historia de Atari. A ver, nos quedamos por Yarg, creo. Os mostré rápidamente el Haunted House, Jar's Revenge, ¿vale? Bueno, pues como decía, una de las verdaderas obras maestras de la época de la VCS, Jar's Revenge fue el primer juego desarrollado por Howard Scott Warshaw. Originalmente se le pidió que creara una versión del juego para recreativas llamado Starcaster. No obstante, en vez de eso, Warshaw decidió crear un juego original para la VCS, el cual mejoró con una elaborada historia que acabó recibiendo una adaptación como cómic. La portadita, vamos a quitar eso. No sé qué historia tendría el Jar's Revenge, pero bueno, ahí viene un comic book. Bueno, sí, mostré esto, la copia y bueno. Aquí venían varios vídeos que no me dio tiempo a enseñaros, pero que vamos a ello ahora. Bueno, como acabo de empezar, voy a poner un gameplay rapidito. Aquí está. Vamos a ver. Bueno, esto tuvo lugar. Dio lugar a un cómic, ¿vale? Bueno. Bueno, ahora se mueven los píxeles. Intentaré no tardar mucho, ya sabéis que luego hay que ir a toda hostia y me dejo cositas por mostrar. Pero bueno, básicamente hay que hacerse un hueco para llegar ahí. Me queda una vida. Fuera. Bueno, este es el de... Vas esquivando eso que te lanzan y ya está. Bueno, vamos a ver. Vamos con los vídeos. Aquí viene el primero.
So I looked over this game. It was Star Castle. I played it a bunch. I thought about it on the VCS. I looked it over and I realized, holy crap, this is going to suck. This is going to absolutely suck. And I could not afford to have my first project suck. I did a little preparation, and then I marched myself into Dennis Cobal's office, and I said, look, instead of doing this, I'd like to do this. This is something that I think uses some of the basic game ideas, but I think this is something that would work on the system. This other one won't work. And I just made this little presentation to him. And to his credit, he said, okay, you know what, go for it. The first thing I put up on the screen was an animated character. Most people use a block because they want to start working out their game mechanics and stuff like that. I put up an animation. That was the first thing I put up on a screen. And people would go by and they go, wow, that looks cool. What does it do? I'd be like, nothing. You know, that's what it does. There it is. I said, I'm still working on it. Don't worry. It's like, and then it got to the point where it was time to actually play it and have some of this stuff. So I had achieved my goal of trying to make something interesting. And it sucked as a game, and I was exactly caught in the place I didn't want to be. So what I did was I started taking feedback, which was extremely painful, to hear people telling me how much my game sucked. The only thing that really made it tolerable was that I wasn't so self-deluded at that point that I didn't realize it sucked also. Until I worked out making some of the changes and getting it through, I was in very bad shape. And I was feeling some very negative feedback from some other people. And I was feeling, you know, I'm usually the person who's hardest on myself. And that was a tough time for me. And I had to get through that before I could hear what people were saying and start to work on it. And I had to release myself from, but I have to have this, but I have to have this. You know, as a therapist, I always catch people when they say I have to. I always love people say, you know, I have to, but I have to do this. And I always stop and I say, look, you don't have to. Obviously you don't have to because you're not doing it, right? You don't have to, but you could, but there's probably a reason you're not. And the reason I'm able to give that lesson to my clients now is because I had to get over that. I had this have to that was making things not work. And until I could let that go, I couldn't make the game succeed. And when I did, it forced me to think in new ways, to think outside the box, and to go come up with some other left field solution. And when I made those changes, then suddenly yours was really good. One of the product managers came by who was responsible for this product, and he goes, hey, well, we're working on naming your game. And I said, can I make a submission? Can I submit a name? And he goes, sure, why not? I said, okay, I tell you what, come by here tomorrow morning. I said, you guys won't have it settled by tomorrow, will you? He goes, no. I said, come by tomorrow morning, I will have something for you. I will have a submission for you. So now I know what I'm doing for the rest of the evening. I don't know if you ever tried it before. When you just try to make up a new word, everything sounds stupid. At least it does for me. I can't come up with something that sounds cool. Everything sounds kind of dumb. So being the algorithmic thinker that I can be at times, I thought, well, if I can't just spontaneously come up with some name, I should come up with a way to derive the name. I'll come up with an algorithm. It's a simple title. What's going on? Maybe I need an action thing. You know, because it's an action game, I need an action word. I don't know the name of the character, but I thought, you know, revenge. Revenge is a great action word because everybody wants revenge, right? So I figure I'll go with revenge, and now all I need is whose revenge is it? Now I just need the name of the character. And then I thought, well, one of the great ciphers is, you know, writing something backwards. That's never a bad idea. You know, the head of the company's name is Ray Kazar. And Ray spelled backwards, that's Yar. And Yar sounds pretty cool. It's got a Y in it, so it's got like sci-fi, anything with Y's and Z's, you know, and maybe an X somewhere. That's good sci-fi stuff. And I sat down and I wrote a 10-page story called The Yarian Revenge of Razak IV. And that was that was going to be the title of the game, The Yarian Revenge of Razak IV. I stayed all night in the office. I was done like 3:30. I just laid down on the floor in my office and got a little sleep. And then around 10, you know, in comes the marketing manager. And so I handed him the package. I go, here you go. This is the package for the story. I didn't realize it fully at the time, but what I had done was I had created the first backstory in the history of video games.
A fly. I'll have a mutant fly. Hello, Yar. You'll need some protection. Ion zone. Shift chroma. Intensify. Okay, now you'll need some weapons. You have a formidable enemy. The Kotile. Watch it, Yar. He has a lethal drone. And some other tricks up his sleeve. Spiral. Go. Good move, Yar. Now I have a surprise for you. A Zorlon cannon. Use it, Yar. Fire again. Got him. That's revenge. Yar's revenge. A video game. Yeah, this can be fun. This can be a lot of fun. Like asteroids. Get him. Do it. Beautiful. Watch it. Disintegrate. Whew. Now let's go into deeper space. Galactic map. Sector 11. Hyperspace. Sights in. Cylon warships, attack. Steady, stand by, photons. Star Raiders. That's it, Star Raiders. That'll keep them on their toes. Let's see what we can come up with next.
We're Atari. We have the vision, and we invented the technology to bring the excitement home to you.
Bueno, pues esto era lo que me faltaba enseñaros, ¿vale? Ahora vamos a los altibajos. Aunque a mediados de los 80 Atari publicó numerosos juegos excelentes, la industria del videojuego luchaba por mantenerse a flote. Eso es lo que vamos a ver ahora. Esta es la Intelevisión, que ya os la he puesto en algunos vídeos, bueno, en un vídeo concretamente, y es de 1979 de Mattel, ¿vale? Ahí os dejo que leáis, bueno, la empresa Mattel había lanzado Intelevisión, una consola con un procesador de 16 bits y otras ventajas tecnológicas. Su publicidad decía que el software de Intelevisión era mejor que el de Atari, sobre todo en los juegos de deporte. En 1981, Intelevisión había vendido más de 1 millón de unidades y había comenzado la primera guerra de consolas. Vale, según leéis ahí, pues esto Atari Age era una revista de Atari, ¿vale? Que tenía Atari sobre juegos, etcétera, etcétera. Demons to Diamonds, escrito por Nick Turner y Alan Murphy. Este juego exclusivo para VCS transportaba a los jugadores a una galería de disparos del carnaval cósmico. Demon to Diamonds, dirigido a un público preadolescente, era una versión más accesible y entretenida del género de disparos con objetivo. Esta es la portadita. Ok. Ya estamos en el 82. Vamos a darle un vicio, a ver. Intentaré no tardar mucho para que me dé tiempo repasar esto rápido. Bueno, Real Sports Baseball. Aunque no llegaba a ser totalmente realista, en Real Sports Baseball se vio una amplia mejora en comparación al título anterior para VCS de Atari, Home Run, que se alejaba bastante de las reglas de béisbol de verdad. Portadita. Bueno, como ya hemos estado viendo, Atari sufría un poquito de capacidad técnica a la hora de hacer videojuegos, pero bueno, tiene esa magia que a todos nos gusta. Real Sports Voleibol. Bueno, ya he visto que el anterior lo he quitado ya porque es un poquito así fulero. Aunque ya existía otro juego de voleibol de la competencia, este no intentaba reproducir fielmente el juego de verdad, como hemos visto con el béisbol. Real Sports Voleibol fue la primera simulación de un partido real, incluso a día de hoy. Su sencillo escenario en la playa sigue llamando la atención. Pues vamos a ver. Aquí la portada, como hemos visto antes. Vale. Uy. Y vamos a ver. Real Sports Football, el siguiente juego para la serie Real Sports Football, que añadió una precisión gráfica y profundidad a la experiencia del juego no vistas en el anterior fútbol para VCS lanzado en 1978. Vale, voy a quitar aquí, que llevamos 26 minutillos y no hemos visto nada. Bueno, empezamos con los Sword Quest, ¿vale? Acordaos que había luego un concurso en el que si encontrabas el objeto, te lo pasabas, etcétera, te daban un cáliz o demás, que valía un pastizal en la época. Sword Quest, sin lugar a dudas, el proyecto más ambicioso de VCS de Atari. Se pensó como una serie de 4 juegos, cada uno de los cuales escondía un complejo acertijo que permitiría a un jugador ganar un premio de $25.000, en este caso, hecho de oro y gemas. El primero de ellos en salir al mercado fue Sword Quest Heart War, programado por Dan Hitchen. Aquí viene el vídeo.
So Adventure was a really popular product, and we were there was some vibe around maybe a sequel to Adventure. And somewhere in there, I got the idea of doing a series of games that were contests with comic books with real prizes made by Franklin Mint. We were part of Warner Communications, and somewhere along there, we had started to be doing bits of comic books with the games. And because Warner Communications owned DC Comics. Warner Communications, I happen to know, I don't know that anyone else was paying attention, also owned Franklin Mint, right? Franklin Mint being a collectible company. I don't know, they made plates and little figurines and stuff, I know, and medallions, and not my scene, but it's a creative world. It's hard to talk about this without going me. I don't love going me, but a lot of it was, I consider myself to basically have been the showrunner of Sword Quest. The concept was mine, the literary concept, the material. So the games are actually moderately literate and erudite, right? The whole story is put together as a lot like a Grail quest or something in Joseph Campbell. It would be a hero's journey, a spiritual evolution, a life. It's a story of a life, of a energetic, a magical life, right, through these mystical systems. So I pulled I embedded it in a lot of historical culture of mysticism, and sold the idea, and it went over big. You know, it was certainly, it was brave, it was ambitious, it was audacious, and it had a certain je ne sais quoi, but I don't know what it is. You know, I'll back up a little bit. There was kind of a bizarre effort to do a combination of Twitch and adventure game, to merge and to create an action adventure. I think Howard tried this in Raiders, right, where he tried to make an adventure game that was built into an action game and merge the two. So I consider Howard and I to be some of the pioneers of action adventure. Got to say this in a certain way. So you'd play this action game and maybe get a clue, a prize that you'd add to your inventory. And if you had that in your inventory, then you could unlock, then you'd be on this map. You wouldn't necessarily see the map, but you'd be inside a maze, and a door would open in the maze, and there'd be another action game there. And so it was kind of like a first-person adventure with action elements. That was basically, and you know, I got looking back at it when I say it that way and knowing what was in the times, it was very audacious. And it was actually very creative. It was really, you know, it was really cool.
Bueno, la verdad es que era original, ¿eh? Y el arte está muy bien por George Pérez. Y lo del concursito, pues muy guapo también. Bueno, vamos a jugar rápidamente porque ya vamos por 32 minutos. Se pasa rápido cuando te diviertes. Bueno, como veis ahí abajo está el inventario, ok. Y bueno, se trata solo pues de los primeros juegos de rol, por así decirlo. Pues bueno, básicamente tú entras en una habitación, le das al botoncito, te dice lo que hay en la habitación, ok. Eso se supone que lo he dejado en la espada, es una espada así. Y bueno, lo hago así porque viendo uno ya has visto el resto del sur. Pues, y bueno, no me voy a enrollar más con este juego. Básicamente es ir por el laberinto este, recogiendo objetos, sabiendo cuándo utilizarlos, etcétera, etcétera. Y llegando al final del juego, básicamente. Vamos a pasar a otro, que no quiero que nos pille el toro. Bueno, aquí está ya la 5200, que también la tenéis por ahí, gameplays en el canal.
The 5200 was a tragedy.
Este se parece a George Lucas.
5200 was a good idea gone horribly wrong.
The big problem that we had at Atari, the thing that killed the industry more than any other one thing, even more possibly than the E.T. video game, is that it was the first product life cycle. No one had ever been through a major success video game console life cycle. So where does it end? Nowadays, when somebody comes out with a new system, they already are designing the next system because they know the life of a system. They know a console is good for a certain number of years, and then it's going to die, it's going to fall off, and that's when we need to be ready and prepared to come in with the new system. Holy crap, you know, our first machine is finally falling off the cliff. We need something. We have something. We can take the 400, 800 computer, repackages the 5200, spit it out, and we can do it.
So the 5200 was basically what the 400, 800 was going to be 3 years before. It's a tough business. Business is cruel. And you know, like I say, I'll say it again, it was the first time anything was being done. No one knew.
And what happened was the Atari 5200 It grew very large because marketing wanted perceived value, so bigger was better in some respects. And then marketing got really focused on the Intellivision, and Intellivisions had a bunch of buttons. They had a keypad, and they had this disc with 12 distinct regions. And so, hey, if we put an analog stick here, and one that doesn't self-center was the great idea, this will be a better marketing message than the Intellivision controller. And of course, it was a horrible experience. The company lost focus on what was important, and it was gameplay's important. You know, good games sell, bad games don't. If you've got a bad control mechanism, doesn't matter how good the graphics are. It's not going to be fun to play.
Now what do you do? So, and that was the thing. Engineering we really wanted to do something cool, right? We wanted to do like a real next generation, because the 400-800 was already last generation.
The engineering team and the creative team, the game designers, we were so upset, and we all felt that we were making a wrong decision with this controller, that we put together a petition to upper management, and we just explained that, you know, this is a great product, the control is lacking, we've got some other alternatives we want you to see, and my name's number 3 on the list of the petitioners.
See, I wasn't someone who signed petitions so much as talked to people behind the scenes, because I always felt that was more like the way you operate in a corporation. And but I definitely put the word out whenever I could that, like, you know, this is something we either should have done a few years ago, or, you know, can't really do now.
We told marketing, hey, we could make this 2600 compatible. They didn't want anything to do with that. They said they must be very separate and distinct. We can't have backwards compatibility, which at the time we thought might be a great feature. It's a good way to get people that have these Atari games already and keep them on the Atari platform instead of giving them an opportunity to jump to another platform. And so we designed the product specifically so that you could never have 2600 compatibility. About 2 months before launch, they demanded 2600 compatibility. And at that time, we had to build an adapter. And then we actually had to modify consoles that were already made, the first ones, to work with this adapter. And we called this thing the piggyback parasite. We were just horribly embarrassed by that situation. That never should have happened.
There was some big time denial, you know, around Atari, because nobody wants their parade rained on. And when it's the best parade you've ever imagined in your life, nobody wants to see a cloud. You just don't want to see it. So we didn't.
Bueno, otra vez el Super Breakout. Es que lo que le pasa a Atari es que recicla y recicla y recicla. Más Missile Command, el Star Raiders, que ya hemos visto también cuál es. Creo que lo hemos puesto, que lo he puesto alguna vez. Voy a ponerlo por si acaso. No, no lo he puesto. Este, pues era una especie de simulador espacial, ¿vale? Mapa galáctico. Me quiero ir para allá con el hiperturbo este. Salto a la velocidad de la luz. A ver, este en su época pues tuvo que ser entretenido, ¿vale? Pista trasera, que no sé por qué, pero bueno. bueno, pues un simulador especial. Y especial y espacial, bueno, también era especial. Bueno, vamos a seguir, que se nos va el tiempo. Como os digo, más centípede. No sé, yo creo que la gente, bueno, es el Sword Quest Firewall, que es igual que el Sword Quest, Heartball. El arte, como os he dicho antes, es magnífico. Ya no os estoy dejando tiempo ni para leer eso, pero es que, vamos, hay tanto contenido en el 50 aniversario que es que te puedes tirar horas. Bueno, este es el cómic que venía. Ok. El Quad Run, diseñado por Steve Wojta, fue el primer juego para la 2600 que usó síntesis de voz y se distribuyó una cantidad limitada a través de la venta por correo del club Atari, por lo que a día de hoy es una pieza de colección muy rara. Vamos a ver cómo vamos de tiempo. 46 minutos. Vamos a ver.
Quadrant. Quadrant.
No sé ni cómo se juega. Vale. Real Sport Soccer. Y bueno, más Real Sport Tenis. Vale. El Real Sports Basketball. Vamos con el vídeo.
When you have a tragedy, and I do believe that the fall of the video game industry in the early 80s was a tragedy. It was a tragedy to many, many people. It changed a lot of lives.
I think it's pretty obvious when it comes to the video game crash that Atari didn't have control over the quality.
I mean, it needed some sort of way to keep just anybody from writing cartridges for it.
And so many people saw this video game gold rush and they just, started dumping crap. I remember going to KB toy stores and just seeing, really bad box art and just really just terrible looking games. And that's when I started losing interest and the market became flooded just with garbage. And it ultimately led to, of course, things like E.T. being, actually buried in the desert like garbage.
And what happened was that E.T. became the face of the crash of the video game industry. And I, of course, was the butt behind the face. That's kind of the way it went.
Greed and hubris, that's what undid Atari. If they just had worked more from a place of focusing on making great games and delivering great games to the customer instead of how can we maximize revenue, I feel like they'd still be a huge powerhouse today.
Frankly, Warner did not understand technology. He didn't understand the consumer marketplace, the video game, and Ray Kassar, I think was afraid of releasing new product because it might not be as successful as VCS. So that's a sure way to fail.
I regret that we didn't have a new console by '84 that would have made it so that Atari continued to be a really viable business.
We never, ever got down to ever having any process by which we could come up with a better system.
Even to today, I think people do believe that, like, if they had just released like the 5200 earlier, or if they released the 7800, or they had done different things, they would could never have, like, they would have survived the crash a lot better, and they would be like a powerhouse today, you know. Like, as a kid, I didn't know much about business, but I just felt like something was wrong.
No one knew anything. Certainly no one knew how to replace an existing console with a new one.
The real one-liner about why the game industry crashed and went away is that it was a first product life cycle and nobody knew what to do.
Bueno, básicamente es lo que pasa ahora, la codicia y la soberbia, ¿vale? Se estancan, ya piensan solo en los billetes. Mira, todo esto es parte del documental que os recomendé sobre ET, ¿vale? Si lo podéis ver, miradlo. Al final sí salió por ahí los cartuchos enterrados de ET. Ahí van. Miradlo porque es buenísimo. Bueno, Miner 2049. Miner basado en el juego de ordenador de Atari de Bill Gogh, disponible en esta colección, fue uno de los cientos de juegos de terceros para Atari 2600 que decoraban las estanterías en el 83, aunque era una calidad más alta que la mayoría. Vamos a seguir para adelante. Básicamente es una mezcla de Donkey Kong sin que te tiren barriles, con el Super Mario primero este que tenías que dar cabezazos para matar enemigos, no el... Bueno, vamos a seguir, que no creo que quede mucho tiempo ya. Saboteur, el último juego del diseñador de Atari, Howard Scott Warsaw, el de ET, había sido un juego de disparos llamado Saboteur. Warsaw abandonó la compañía antes de que se terminara y nunca se llegó a publicar. Esta versión es un prototipo casi terminado. ¿Okay? Ahí va, portadita. Y vamos a ver. Vamos a seguir. Es una pena, como digo, que no haya para más. Gravitar. Otra versión para la 2600, y eso que estamos hablando es la 5200. El Waterworld. Ok. La verdad es que el arte es la hostia. Y el Airworld. Bueno, esta es la segunda parte en teoría del que hemos visto antes. Pues un poquito mejores gráficos y tal. Bueno, mejores gráficos, pero bueno, lo que hay, ¿eh? Bueno, sigamos para adelante. 55 minutos, no queda mucho más. Vale, ya es que nos dejó leer eso de ahí porque es que no da tiempo. Otro asteroids, otro centípede. 2600 Junior. El Solaris este. Por el desarrollador de Star Riders. Joder, qué pena que el Real Sport Boxings. Este estaba curioso. El Secret Quest este estaba, creo recordar que estaba chachi. Que es como el... Vale, tenías que ir con energía, oxígeno, bla bla. Pues para la época, pues curiosete. Un vídeo 3 minutos, 7, 8, 9, uff, vale. Si os lo dejo vamos a ir pillados. Qué penita que, bueno. El Dark Chambers de la 7800, ¿vale? Este también estaba el curiosete. Este ya le he jugado... Este ya lo he puesto en un vídeo, ¿vale? Tenías que ir pillando comida tipo Gauntlet. Basado en el juego por ordenador Dandy de 1983 de Atari, creado por John Palevich. Dark Chambers es un juego de mazmorras multijugador que se inspira en los juegos de rol de papel y lápiz. Más o menos, ¿vale? Pero bueno, estaba curioso. Ya tenéis un gameplay que os puse por ahí, como os he dicho en otro vídeo, que lo podéis ver. E incluso os dejé los ROMs en ese vídeo para que lo descargaseis con el emulador. El emulador no estaba, pero los ROMs los tenéis. Y bueno, 57 minutos, son 60 minutos los de los vídeos de Play. No me va a dar para más, pero nos quedamos en que en el siguiente vídeo sobre Atari, perdonad si voy deprisa y tal, porque es que va con el tiempo pillado haciendo esto. Os voy a poner este vídeo, ¿vale? El de Atari después de la crisis. Y pasaremos a los albores del PC. Que aquí lo que veremos será Atari PC. Ok. Y en Atari PC pues tenemos más juegos, anuncios, más juegos, pues los mini documentales estos que estamos viendo, jueguecitos, bla bla bla. Bueno, ya le veremos ahí. Y luego ya estaremos en los 90, que es donde el hardware y todo eso, ¿vale? Así que nada, nos quedamos en altibajos, hemos dicho. Y en Atari después de la crisis. Así que nada, espero que hayáis disfrutado más o menos del vídeo y que paséis buen domingo. Mañana grabaré el siguiente, a ver si me da tiempo subirlo y seguimos con esta historia. Ya os digo que si queréis el Atari 50 aniversario está en Steam, en PlayStation creo que está ahora de rebaja. Si os gusta mucho Atari, pues pillaoslo porque es que os lo vais a pasar pipa. Y bueno, os doy yo el repasito para que veáis cómo viene y qué tiene, ¿vale? Así que nada, disfrutad, como digo, del domingo, cuidaros y nos vemos en el siguiente vídeo. Hasta luego.